All right, let's jump right in. Have you ever tried to describe something that is, by its very nature, completely beyond description? Well, today, we're going to tackle that exact puzzle, the Quranic concept of absolute transcendence. This is a big one, a real journey into the limits of our own minds, so let's get into it.
So, this is the fundamental challenge right here. This is a question that thinkers have been wrestling with for centuries, and it really sets the stage for everything we're about to discuss. How are we, with our limited human minds, supposed to even begin talking about a reality that's totally infinite?
Now, this isn't just some fun little brain teaser. It's a huge philosophical question that the Quran actually takes on directly. It basically acknowledges, hey, we know you can't fully grasp this, but here's a framework to help you think about what lies beyond your own understanding.
Think about it. Our brains are literally wired to make sense of the world through the things we can perceive. Stuff like before and after, here or there, a circle or a square. These categories are the absolute building blocks of our reality. It's the only game we know how to play.
And that's the crucial point, isn't it? If a creator is the source of space and time, then by definition, they can't be trapped inside of it. It's kind of like asking the author of a book to be just another character in their own story. So how on earth does the Quran approach this seemingly impossible task?
Well, the answer is pretty fascinating. It's found in this core idea in Islamic theology, and it offers a way to talk about the divine without getting it tangled up in our limited human terms. The approach isn't to say what God is, but to be crystal clear about what God is not.
And that key concept is called Tanzih. It's this principle of declaring God's absolute total uniqueness. So instead of trying to squeeze the divine into our little human boxes, this idea defines God by taking things away. It's like wiping the slate clean of all our worldly assumptions before we even start.
This verse, from a really short but incredibly powerful chapter called Al-Ikhlas, is one of the most definitive statements in the entire Quran. And just listen to how final that sounds. Absolutely none like him. There's no wiggle room there. It's drawing a very clear, uncrossable line between the Creator and all of creation. So, what does that actually mean in practice? Well, it means the Creator isn't stuck in one place, isn't limited by time, past, present, or future, doesn't have a physical body, and is completely self-sufficient, not needing anything from anyone. See, all those things, space, time, form, those are features of the creation, not the Creator.
Okay, I get it. This might still feel a little abstract. So let's see how this actually works. We're going to make this super concrete by looking at how this one principle completely reframes one of the most famous verses in the entire scripture. Yep, we're talking about Ayat al-Kursi, the throne verse. Now, you probably heard of it, but when you look at it through this lens of Tanzih, wow, it changes everything. It forces you to shift your whole perspective from a physical thing to something way, way bigger, a whole system.
And you can see the difference right here. On one side, you could read it literally and picture, a big physical throne somewhere up there. But if you apply that principle of Tanzih we've been talking about, the throne becomes this incredible metaphor for the absolute system of divine law and control that runs the entire universe. Okay, let's break that down, because it's really cool. Sustenance? That's not some random act. It's the non-stop operation of natural laws. And vigilance, neither slumber nor sleep, that's not about watching with eyes. It means the system of cause and effect never takes a break, not for a second. So the throne is really the total jurisdiction of this law. And get this, even pleading for something can't just bend the rules. It only works if it's already aligned with how the system is set up. So the huge takeaway here is this. The throne verse isn't describing a being sitting on a chair. It's describing a perfect, non-localized system of law and order that is active everywhere, at all times, without fail.
All right, so this brings us to a really interesting paradox. If the Creator is so completely separate and transcendent, then how can the Quran also talk about being incredibly, intimately close?
And that's a fair question, right? How can something be totally other and separate from us, but also be described as super, super near? It really sounds like a contradiction, but the framework we've been building up here actually shows us it's not.
So first, the text doubles down on that idea of transcendence. This verse here leaves no doubt. There is absolutely nothing like him, period. That's the beyond part of the equation.
And then, almost immediately, you get this, a statement of profound intimacy, the within part. And think about it, the jugular vein is your lifeline.
This verse is claiming a closeness that's even more immediate, more fundamental than our own biology.
So, how do we make sense of this? How do we solve the paradox? Well, it all comes down to separating the source of the law from the system that applies the law. That transcendence we talked about, that's the source. Utterly separate, totally unique. But that immanence, that feeling of closeness, that's the perfect, inescapable application of that law. It's the system itself.
To put it another way, this idea of closeness isn't measured in miles or inches. It's about the fact that you can never step outside the system of divine law, the consequences of your actions, the very laws of physics that keep you alive. That system is with you more intimately than your own breath.
And that leaves us with one last, big question to think about. If the universe operates as this perfect, all-encompassing system of law, established by a transcendent source, well, that kind of reframes our entire existence, doesn't it? It forces us to ask not just about our place in the cosmos, but about our responsibility within this system of perfect cause and effect. So what then is our role?